Hello, YouTubers, and welcome back to my channel, Wrestling Paranormal Beer Oh My. And like I said earlier in the previous video, that I was going to come back and do a review on Clash of the Champions. Overall, I thought it was a pretty decent pay-per-view. I think they're getting better with their content. I'm actually one of those that likes the fact that they split up the shows because there is so much talent, and that they have brought so many different people in from Japan. They have signings from TNA now, and they have the whole NXT roster that they can play with. So I'm actually glad that they split up the shows. I was actually very pleased with SmackDown's Backlash, and for the most part, I was pretty pleased with Clash of Champions last night. This one holds a special place in my heart because if you notice in my little icon there is a picture of Sting. Well, that is me, actually. I'm a huge Sting fan, and every Halloween, or any chance I got for that matter, I would dress up like him. Um, Maybe we shouldn't tell him that. He may think that's weird. Or maybe we should tell him that, and maybe he think that's awesome. Want to meet this guy? I don't know. I actually live in Dallas, Texas, and I know for a fact that he doesn't live far from here. Just about 45 minutes south to an hour south from here, which is probably already creepy information to know. But I digress. I'm moving on. Clash of Champions is obviously where Sting had his last match last year against Seth Rollins with a neck injury. Sad, sad day. Anyway, so on to the show. I did not see the pre-show with Nia Jax versus Alicia Fox, mainly because I already knew who was going to win that match because they have been feeding Nia Jax all these jobbers. Not that Alicia Fox is a jobber, but when actually have you seen her work any mainstream matches? You haven't. They've got her a little bit, obviously in Raw, with some back and forth. I think mainly to see if Nia Jax can hold her own with a promo. Okay, she's massive. She's a force to be reckoned with, and I'd be very curious to see what happens with her when it comes to the other lady female wrestlers. I just don't know how the other ones are going to compare to her. I'm not sure how she's going to compare to them when it comes to the style, because obviously she's real strong style. She's in beast mode, and the other ones are very athletic and bounce around all over the ring. So that will be interesting. Obviously, the other three ladies that were in the triple threat last night are really good on the mic and really good promos. So it's going to be interesting what they do with Nia Jax moving forward because she's still really, really green. Maybe able to hold her own in the ring, but when it comes to holding her own, when it comes to the mic, still left to be seen. Obviously, Nia Jax actually went over against Alicia Fox. Again, not surprising. But let's go ahead and move into the real show. First match being the New Day versus Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson. Partially the club, which I think was a huge blunder on the WWE's part on splitting up so early. The club with AJ Styles, which is totally something else I'll get into later, because now it's just like, all right, here's two guys that are kind of okay on the mic. They're pretty good in the ring, but up to this point, they've just been kind of New Day's bitch. And I didn't know what was going to happen in the show. I was kind of hoping that Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson would win the belts to give them a push. New Day doesn't need a push. They've already beat the record. So let these other guys get their push and let them get established, and New Day can come in later because New Day is New Day. Here's the other thing. When New Day came out, they're not getting the pop that they used to. It's almost like they've run their course. They're a little long in the tooth now, and I feel like the fans are not turning on them because they're still a fan favorite. Obviously, they sell a lot of merchandise, but it's like, okay, what now? What else can you do? I mean, you do the same promo all the time for the most part. You got your Burrito cereal. I mean, it's great. It's a great work, but at the same time, we're gonna go at this point, and I think even the fans are starting to say, okay, let's start to see something new. I I believe that Big E will be a great champion one day. Personally, mic skills, promo skills, and in-ring ability. And I would love to see Xavier Woods branch out and do something. And just something more as a solo act. I don't know, maybe him and Kofi could go somewhere and do a little tag team themselves. But that's obviously not going to happen. I thought the match itself was pretty good. I thought it was going to end really, really early at first when they attacked early. And I was like, wow, we're going to have like a 19-second match right here, which I thought, personally, would have been awesome. It would have been a statement. And of course, we would have had a rematch moving forward, and it would have led for something big tonight. But, you know, a pretty good match. New Day went over. But here's the thing. With all the interference that we've had from the outside, usually when you have interference, you're a heel. We see that with The Miz and his wife. We see that with, spoiler alert, Kevin Owens and Chris Jericho. We saw that with Rusev and his wife. And they're all heels. But yet here we are with the New Day, who has this third legitimate wrestler as their valet, as their manager or third partner, whatever you want to call it, who interferes in almost every match. And this match, he interfered big by hitting him on the side of the head with the trombone. That's usually a heel move. So I'm curious about that. I was actually hoping that maybe Xavier Woods in this would turn heel and cost the New Day the championship. We didn't see that. New Day retains. They move on. Their streak is intact as well. They just expanding on that record. All right, moving forward. Cruiserweight title. I had very high hopes with. I've seen TJ Perkins on Wednesday nights when they do the Cruiserweight TV show on the WWE Network. I'm glad that Brian Kendrick is back. I think he's electric. I think he's controversial. I think he's great on the mic. Obviously, I think he's awesome in the ring. Obviously, you just knew that the guy was going to retain. I had a lot of high hopes for this match. I thought there was going to be a lot of high flying and moving around. But instead, we got a lot of botches. A ton of botches. Wasn't clean really at all. And the other thing that irritated me about this is since there was really no build-up to this match prior, right? So we heard a little bit from TJ Perkins, but then the announcers told us what Brian Kendrick had to say. And the thing is that I want to hear what Brian Kendrick had to say. Let's get a little heat on this and moving forward, and they missed the boat on drawing some heat on it before the match. However, I did like how they changed everything up with the ring, with the way the ring looked and the purple and all that stuff. So they really made it its own. But you can tell the fans weren't having it. They were ready for the match to end. Even the match, the way it ended was sloppy. The way he just tapped out, it seemed to me pretty quick, but it was time for that match to end. TJ Perkins retains, not surprising. Brian Kendrick headbutts him afterwards. There's a little bit of heat there, but put Brian Kendrick on the mic. Let's hear what he has to say. Let's really book this the way it should. Awesome. Moving on, the Best of 7 series, which comes down to what I thought was one of the best matches of the night with a shit-ass ending. Cesario coming in against Sheamus. Sheamus obviously went up 3-0 in this. Cesario came back and made it interesting. To me, I knew that was going to happen. They wouldn't have it end on a Raw. They were going to have this end on a pay-per-view. I thought it was a great match. Now, Cesaro, I thought, killed himself at one point when he did the suicide dive out of the ring and he landed on his neck. You can even see that Sheamus was like kind of holding him up a little bit. But he seemed to be okay. He moved on with that. And then, obviously, a total work when he clotheslined Sheamus outside over the guardrail and into the fans. You had that one guy in the corner kind of fall over, and it was amazing how everybody came to check on the wrestlers, but nobody checked on that guy, which just told me that he was a part of it. He was probably a jobber NXT guy to make it look a little bit more real. And then all of a sudden they just ended the match, and I kept thinking that like Mick Foley was going to come out saying we cannot end it this way, keep this match going, when especially if Cesaro got it back in the match, said come on, and they just kind of held Sheamus back. A great match with a shit-ass ending. And now, here we are, we have 7 matches in the book, we don't have a winner. So I am very curious to see what they're going to do with this angle, because I think if you're anything like me, I'm kind of done with the angle because there's been a lot of them. There's been a lot of them for over a month now, and I wouldn't be surprised if they're a little done with it too. But overall, a good match with a shit ass ending. Moving forward with Chris Jericho and Sami Zayn, this is going to be controversial, but I thought the right person won this match. Me personally think Chris Jericho is in rare form. Now, Steven Larson, those guys have a podcast themselves, and they talk about how this is the best they've ever seen Jericho when it comes to his in-ring presence and his mic work, and the way they're whole setting him up with the scarf and being best friends with Kevin Owens. This is the best that I've ever seen Chris Jericho. I personally would like to see the belt on him one more time. It doesn't have to be long. Just let the guy, send him off the way he needs to be sent off, especially with the work that he's doing. Sami Zayn is going to have his day. There's no doubt Sami Zayn is going to have that belt one day, probably taking it from Kevin Owens at some point. But right now, I think Chris Jericho, the right guy, won that match. It was a pretty good match for the most part, kind of slow in some spots, but I love it, the fact that you can just hit a code breaker, kind of like the RKO out of nowhere. Chris Jericho just hits the code breaker out of nowhere, and he did it again this time. I thought he was the right guy to go over. I'd be very interested to see what happens with that moving forward. I know that before Finn Balor got hurt, that the rumor was there was going to be a build-up to a triple threat match between him, Kevin Owens, and Chris Jericho. So I am curious, because at some point, one of those guys is going to turn on each other when it comes to Kevin Owens and Chris Jericho. But anyway, controversial. I'm going to say controversial in my opinion. I like the fact that Chris Jericho went over. He is definitely one of my favorite parts of wrestling right now. Moving forward into the triple threat women's match between Charlotte, Sasha Banks, and Bayley. I called it. I told my buddy I was watching, I was like, they're going to give Charlotte the belt again. I'm mainly hoping that Charlotte does a little bit of a show with Dana Brooke and get that out of the way, and let Bayley and Sasha have a little bit of a rivalry. Obviously, they had one in NXT, but not a lot of people saw that. Now that they're on the main roster, on the big stage, let them do that here. And I think they kind of alluded to that at the very beginning of the match, and then obviously just went into a normal triple threat. I thought there was one really cool part when they all went up to drop kick each other, and obviously there's nobody there to drop kick. I thought that just shows how good they are in the ring. So I thought Charlotte going over was good. There's no point in having her lose it, win it, lose it. Give it to her. I think she is a great heel. I think a heel champion are good for this point in time. Let Bayley and Sasha build some heat on that rivalry. Let Dana Brooke and Charlotte do a little bit of a storyline themselves, and then come back, maybe do another triple threat. Or I would really like to see Bayley take the belt off Charlotte at some point, because Bayley's over, way over, in my opinion, than Sasha Banks is. But overall, a good match. It's been a while since I've seen a bad women's match. I mean, WWE's done a great job when it comes to bringing in high quality talent. When it comes to women's wrestling, they've really brought that in, and they've making it their own. So I'm really happy to see that. Okay, moving into Roman Reigns and Rusev. I hated this match. I think WWE has spoiled their opportunity to make Roman Reigns a heel a long time ago. They're still forcing the babyface. Of course, they couldn't make Roman Reigns heel tonight or last night against Rusev, because Rusev is a great heel, not being part of this country, and his little tangents he goes on. And of course, Lana is just smoking hot. But I thought a decent match for the two really big men. I think Rusev, being a big man, moves greater in the ring. I really wish that Roman Reigns would get rid of this. I think the fans hate that more than anything else. It's like, okay, we get it, because when he does that, he very rarely ever hits it. It's like he hits it when no one's expecting it. That's the way it should be, in my opinion. And I think that he would probably go over more with the fans if he would change his stupid outfit. Just my opinion. Leave a comment below. Tell me if you agree with that or not. But okay match. Back and forth, then both kicking out. Finishers. Rusev locking the accolade after Lana got, told to leave after she interfered with the match. Rusev locks in the accolade. One or two things were going to happen here. There was no way in hell that they were going to have Roman Reigns tap. It was either he was going to do what he did, power out of it, or he was going to pass out. Now, if they really wanted to make him a face at that match, if they would have had him pass out, I think the fans would have appreciated that. And Rusev still looks strong going over and still retains the belt. I think Rusev needs to have the belt. I think you need to let that rivalry go a little bit longer. Nope. Roman Reigns now is your U.S. champion. Better than the WWE Universal Championship, I guess. But afterwards, he was just so cocky about it. And he would be a great heel. I would love him as a heel. Even like The Rock, he's just not as good on the mic as The Rock. But The Rock was a heel, and he let the fans make him a face. Here, Roman Reigns is a face, and the fans want him to be a heel. But that just goes to show that WWE sometimes listens to its fans, and in this case, they do not. Overall, okay match. Okay, moving on to the final match. Kevin Owens versus Seth Rollins. Good match. A good way to end the show. I'm a big fan of Kevin Owens. I think it just shows that you don't have to be a Hulk Hogan or Seth Rollins or Roman Reigns as a chiseled guy to go over with the fans and hold the belt and put on a great show in the ring. And not to mention that Kevin Owens is great on the mic. He shoots great promos. Kevin Owens goes over on this match. He needed to go over on this match. Was it clean? No. Chris Jericho, being the great guy that he is, comes in, does a little interference. Referee gets knocked out. I thought that was great. Seth Rollins covers Kevin Owens, and the fans kept counting all the way to 21, right? So he was clearly out. Stephanie comes down with a referee. Seth Rollins is like, okay, get in. And as the referee gets in and Seth Rollins gets back in the ring, pop-up powerbomb slam, done. Kevin Owens retains, and you saw that little smirk on Stephanie's face, which, yes, finally, stop like, oh, Seth, it wasn't me, I promise. No, shut up. Let's get to your heel side. I did think we were going to see Triple H tonight. We didn't. I thought that was interesting. So clearly we're going to see that at a bigger pay-per-view. And I think they're going to build him and Seth Rollins for a WrestleMania 33 match. Just my opinion. But anyway, I think overall I give this a B+ pay-per-view. I think despite some of the bad writing with some of the characters that WWE is doing, that the wrestlers themselves are overcoming that and putting on great shows and great matches and cutting great promos. So that's my first review ever live like this. Usually I don't even get to talk to friends because I know a lot of friends that are wrestling fans. But leave a comment down below. Tell me what you think. Let me know if I'm doing okay. Let me know if the screen's dark or whatever. If I need to do something in the background, which I will. But please subscribe to my first 10 subscribers. I'm going to send a little gift. Again, I don't know what it is. College student here. Don't have a lot of money. And but anyway, thanks again for coming and checking this out. I look forward to hearing from you down below and going back and forth. All right, guys. Have a great night. I'm going to get ready for just about an hour. Raw is going to kick off. I'm interested to see what happens. And I'll come back with a Raw and SmackDown review later this week. Peace.